Well, good afternoon, Miss Kristen. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing good. So, obviously, first time on the podcast. Cool people call it the pod. First time on the pod. If you don't mind, give a quick little blurb of who you are.
Oh, goodness. I am, let's see, in order, I am probably Dusty's wife. I am Avery, Andrew, and Austin's mom.
All right.
But I am also, I don't know, we've lived here for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. I guess that's a good summary.
That's a good summary. You know what I tell Dusty? He's not allowed to retire till after my daughter graduates high school.
Well,
Which, obviously, he can work till he's 80. I'm just saying, the main rule is he's not allowed to retire till after Charlotte graduates.
hey, I think that's great.
Yeah. I will say, before we kind of get into this, I think the reason why y'all's youth ministry has been so good for so long, like the things that y'all do, the whatever, why I would say something like that about that is because he's been doing it for so long. And I'm not saying he's got this experience, so he's kind of perfected the craft. What I mean is he fully invested himself into being the best youth pastor that Dusty Lindsey could be. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than it being the next step to becoming a senior whatever. You know what I'm saying? And y'all fully invested in it, and the fruit has been born from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
I think the cool thing is that he's just being obedient to what God has asked him to do, and that's just his heart. He loves those teenagers. I've always joked that we never left the youth group.
Yeah.
So we met in college, but we were both involved in youth ministries.
Yeah.
And I think there is something to be said about getting to see the ebbs and flows and the different things that have gone on through all the years with teenagers. And obviously there's a different perspective now that he has teenagers of his own. And so, the Lord has just been faithful.
Yep.
And he's pretty fun. He's pretty good at it.
Dusty? Yeah. So for some listeners that may not be in tune with the current lingo of the teenage crowd, Dusty goes by Dubsty because the term dub means you're a win. You're a winner. So they call him Dubsty.
They do.
And he's earned it. I mean, he is a winner.
I don't know when that started.
That started in San Diego in 2021. So,
Okay.
with a group of teenage boys. And it stuck, so.
That's awesome. I knew that they called him that, but I didn't know the backstory.
But, all right, one last thing. You also are from the great town of Bryant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, town of winners. That's what.
That's right. We're Hornets.
That's right. It's a great day to be a Bryant Hornet. But, all right. So, to kind of get into the topic that we're going to talk about today, one thing, I'd like to add that you've been going through the last, 3.5 years through master's degree through New Orleans Theological Seminary in biblical counseling. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing more of an emphasis on family and children, correct?
Well, that is my heartbeat. The actual degree that I'm getting is just going to be a licensed professional mental health counselor.
But the direction you're going with it, yeah.
Yes, I will be able to see all. But there's just less hoops to jump through in order to get that licensure. But yes, I will be seeing, when I start counseling, I will be seeing families and kiddos and yes.
And then one other thing I'd like to hit right now, because it will build on it as it goes, there's this, I guess we can call it a program through the Arkansas State Convention called Living Well that you're going to be associated with that, from my understanding, it connects foster care, adoption, family wellness, counseling, all of this under one umbrella. Not only for the sake of the children going through that, the families that are going to be going through the process of foster care, adoption, whatever, but then isn't it also like pastoral care, like all these different avenues for family health and things like that. Is that
Yes. So the overview is you've got the Arkansas Baptist Family and Children's Ministry, which is ABCFM. And then under that, you have different ministries. And one of those is the Connected Foster Care and Adoption Ministry.
Yep.
And one of those is the Living Well Counseling Ministry. And then there's a Desired Haven piece to that too. And so the way they tie together is you've got these mamas or families that are struggling and their kiddos enter the foster care system.
Yeah.
But they want those kiddos back. And so they have the support of this Desired Haven as they're working through things.
Yeah.
And then you've got the foster care and the kiddos that are in foster care and those families that have been obedient to say, yes, I will, take in these kids while their parents are working on getting their feet underneath them. But then you've got the counseling side, which you've got Desired Haven people that, these families that need counseling. And then you've got these foster care kids in the foster care family, the adults that have said yes to fostering them that need counseling. And so Living Well is just kind of that piece that kind of ties it together. But it is also very much part of working within churches for pastoral counseling, for community counseling. It's just faith-based counseling for which will be in Russellville, will be for our surrounding community.
Sweet. All right. So, kind of as we lead into this conversation, there's just a few things I'd like to just ask and pick your brain about. But the first one is why get this degree? You know?
Oh goodness.
What was the I guess the best way I can ask this? What was the conviction that you felt to do this? What happened?
Well, I mean that's the word, is the conviction. Goodness, I would say. I'm trying to think, and it's sad that I'm thinking in decades. I don't remember how long ago it was. I know I had littles, and I remember, I don't know what had happened, but I just remember all along through these years, Dusty and I have at random times said, we just need more tools. Like how do we help these families? How do we serve them well? How do we love them well? And the common phrase would be, we just need more tools. So I remember, I mean, I don't even know if Austin was here yet. So, like, I had littles in the house. And I remember looking up to see how many hours it would be if I decided to go back and get a counseling degree. And it was just no way. There was no way with the season of life that I was in. So I just kind of put that on the back burner. And I can tell you stories of how God just dropped different people in my lap in a few years leading up to me saying, okay, it's time to go. But I remember one Sunday... when I end this journey in May, it will have been 3.5 years. So probably about 4.5 years ago, I remember being in church one Sunday and we were just in corporate worship and just having that overwhelming feeling of, okay, it's time. And it was just kind of like, yes, Lord. And I didn't really know what yes, Lord meant. I just knew that he was stirring and doing something. And he just kind of started directing that path and put one thing right after another that has led me here. So I still look back and I'm just like, what in the world? How have we gotten here? But when we're obedient to him, he just helps us through it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool. I wonder how many people are thinking about it or like come in on a Sunday morning and like there's just something stirring in their heart of like, I don't want to say they need to do more. There's just this stirring in their heart, and they really don't know what it is. But, like, would you say the biggest hurdle was to finally say, yes, Lord? Like, yes, or was the biggest hurdle of getting over the fact of, I don't know what I'm saying yes to? Which would...
I honestly think the biggest hurdle is us being still before the Lord so we can hear the yes. And we can hear him talking to us. I think we're so busy.
Yeah.
I think that actually having a heart that can hear would have been the biggest hurdle. And for me, honestly, the biggest hurdle was the patience and the waiting.
Okay.
I was home with littles for so many years. And it was just like, okay, Lord, what's next? What's next? What's next? And so looking back, I am so thankful that he didn't put this in my lap then. Because my personality wouldn't have been able to do both well.
Gotcha.
Some people can, but that wouldn't have been best for my family. So that was probably my biggest hurdle, is waiting to see what he was going to unfold when. And then, but just in general, I think we're just so busy a lot of times.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is like, are you the type of personality of like, I can only fully give myself into one thing at one time? So like, you really wanted to give yourself fully into being a mom, you know, till your children were old enough to like kind of take some responsibility for themselves. Like now you're at the point you got a daughter that's in college, son in high school, and a son in middle school. So now there's like some little more freedom to like fully give yourself into.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Yes.
And so, no, I respect that. Well, yeah, you're not kidding about the being patient and slowing down to actually be willing to listen, you know. So, kind of coming off of that question, would you say that, let's put this into the church setting, okay? Why, and this may just be from my opinion, from my eyes, even just from my own, like, hardness of heart, why is family counseling or family, like, marriage counseling or whatever, why has it been given such a bad, like, oh, if we do that, then it's like last resort? When in all reality, from my own studying at seminary school, whatever, it's just basically discipleship, you know what I'm saying? So why has it been given such a bad rap? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You know, I think part of it may be that we just don't want to admit we can't do it on our own. You know, I mean, if we've got something going on in our family that we just can't figure out, we just want to keep trying to figure it out. You know, I think part of it is admitting that, okay, maybe we do need an outside source to help us connect some of these pieces or to kind of figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, that is, you know, not a lot, most of the time, by the time someone actually decides, okay, I'm going to go, you know, make an appointment and walk in to see a counselor, we're already a lot of times in crisis mode. It hasn't been the preventative. It hasn't been the, okay, we need to get on top of this. It's at the point where it's like, okay, we got to have help and we got to have it now. Yeah. And, you know, if I could fix that, if we could fix that question, man, I mean, I don't know how to fix it, but that's just kind of our mentality. So I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know the answer. I think if we did, we wouldn't, you know, we would all be in a better place.
Yeah. So, well, maybe what I hear you saying is there may be this little element of pride, of this inability to say, you know what, I actually kind of need some help, you know? And I wonder, you know, that even comes down to the lack of discipleship within church, you know, or in the church culture, whatever the case may be. People's inability to say, you know what, like I actually need to learn how to obey the things of Christ, you know, rather than, sure, he has saved me from my sin, I get to go to heaven one day, but now I'm still going to, like, I'm still in charge of my life, you know what I'm saying? And that's totally contrary to the teachings of the New Testament. So, kind of building what I'm asking here is there's just been this kind of culture of built into place to where counsel's this last resort, there's this last whatever the case may be. But in all reality, how many people do you think sit in a church that, like, if they open themselves up to be kind of a like a mentor or whatever the case may be, like what is it going to take for a church to have a culture of like of mentorship in the sense that there's this new young mom that's struggling with this whatever. Well, there's a woman over here that's raised 4 godly children, and she's been through the same thing. So why can't we just automatically connect them too? You know what I'm saying? So what would your recommendations for that?
So that right there is the heartbeat of just the passion that God has given me. And I'm going to back up. So if I don't answer this fully, like, redirect me to that. Okay. When someone comes in, so when you're in the counseling program, you have to do as my kids would say, bazillion hours of practical internship. So I've already spent a year counseling. And then then I'll do more, obviously, after I graduate. There's just a lot to it. But during that year that I was able to counsel, I saw over and over the need and just the foundational truths that could be had when someone walked into that counseling office. Number one, they were already connected in a local church body.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, they already had what I call in our youth realm truth seekers and truth speakers in their life that are seeking God daily, that are walking with the Lord, and that are going to tell them hard things when they need to know them, and help point out, like, maybe we've got some lies we're hearing in our heads, which we all do.
Yeah.
That they're able to kind of point us back to the Lord with that, so they're able to speak into our lives. If they have those two things in their life, and then they have these mentors or they have these people that are walking life with them, whatever they have come into the counseling room with, we already have the foundation laid.
Yeah.
Like, that is the ideal situation because, there are times in our lives that we just can't do it on our own. And a good analogy, I think, maybe because that's what Avery wants to do is physical therapy. I just think of, so you've had surgery, you've had some trauma in your life. Okay. So something has happened and we can just pretend it's not there. Right? Or we go to physical therapy. And what do they do with us in physical therapy? After the surgery, after the trauma, whatever, is they teach us small things to do, right? That they're not like major things. It's like pulling on a rubber band or depending on what's going on. They teach you these small exercises to do there, but then you also have to do them at home, right?
Yeah.
And so if you do these small things to help strengthen those muscles, then whatever it was in our that had kind of disrupted our life, we're kind of able to get back on track.
Yeah.
Well, kind of the same thing mentally. Like, we have some trauma that happens, or sometimes we don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But we just need help getting the small pieces put back together that we can do at home, that we can do within our lives to help us get back to functioning in a healthy way. And when we have those three pieces together, when we have the church body, when we have our foundation in Christ, but then we also have those people walking life with us. And then you come to see, I give you I help a little bit. I see once a week, right? For a short amount of time. But these are the people walking daily with you.
Yeah.
So if we can connect that, and if we can unhurry and unbusy our lives to where we take time to seek those mentors.
Yeah.
And we take time to be those mentors.
Yeah.
Then we've got, we can, good grief. It would change our families. It would change the culture of the church, the body of church in general.
Yeah. Man, so kind of what I hear you saying is like a major issue with family health, whatever the case may be, is they've chosen to structure their lives around things that aren't life-giving, right? And I'm going to be biased towards structuring life around the church because I work at one, But just studying throughout the New Testament, the way God designed the church and the way it's supposed to operate, like, there's so many people that, that I see that have chosen to structure their lives around the church and the operations of the church and serving in the church, using their skills and abilities, their talents, their time, their money for the health of the local church. And, as I'm saying this, there's so many different young men popping in my mind. And I'm like, I would allow my daughter to hang out with her children anytime they want, Or if something happens in my life and I'm having to make a major life decision, I'm going to call that guy, But then I also see in culture that church has just turned into another thing of consumption because everything in my life, I just pay a fee and I get something in return. And we've turned our relationship with Jesus into I'll give an hour of my time once, twice a month and expect some kind of return from God on that, right? But that's not structuring your life around And there's no like actually knowing people. There's no actual knowing the body, knowing like learning how to bear fruit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of what I hear you saying is if someone comes in, if they are fully invested into a local body and there are people telling them the truth, then I don't mean to use the word success rate like in a fabrication sense, but like this success rate of them, whatever, is far better than someone that's totally isolated themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, when that happens, we can get right to work on whatever that presenting problem is.
Yeah.
Because we have the foundation. We know the truth. We know whom our great physician is. We know, that in our own power, we can fix nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so when if someone walks in with that, and that's when I said I needed more tools. Within ministry, and you can speak to this too, we know God-fearing people that things just happen. We live in a broken, fallen world. And when those things happen and that's when we walk into that counseling office. But when we already have that foundation, then we can get right to work. It's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
If not, then we have to take time to build and work on some of those things. And not that the Lord can't work in and through that. He absolutely can. But speaking to just the church of the whole as it being about me, I mean, that's our world, is we think everything's about us. And I say that as me included. I think that we are always fighting against just that consumerism part of ourselves. And, I don't remember who I was talking to. We were talking the other day just about community. And then just our culture of how we're so individualistic that we don't do community well anymore.
Yeah.
We are so busy taking our kids to this place, or, and I'm not saying those things don't matter and they can't be important, but we have surface relationships with a lot of people. But do we really stop to get deep and have those truth speakers and truth seekers, or do we just keep going because it's comfortable and we say hi and bye, but like, do we stop and walk life with people?
Yeah.
And I don't know that we do that well. Well, I know we don't do that well as a society, but as the church, as a whole, how are we, it'd be interesting to kind of do a survey of how are we doing on that?
Yeah.
Like if we're connected in a life group, yes, I mean, we're connected, and I think we get on a deeper level. But what if someone in that life group has something happen in their life? Are we too busy to be able to stop and text and check on them, or walk, go over to their house and pray with them, or go to coffee after the kids go to bed? I guess, guys, y'all go hunting, or I don't know exactly what y'all would do, but are we actually truly living life together?
Yeah.
In a way that supports Christ-like community.
Yeah.
And I think we're missing the mark a lot on that.
Man, that's convicting. Yeah. It's convicting because, like, when I get home at night, like, I just want to be at home, or when it's Saturday, it's my Saturday. So, man, no, that's very true. And I've seen the good side of doing it right in my own life, and I've also seen the negative side of the opposite, like isolate, So, one question I do have, since you and Dusty have been doing, youth ministry for so long, so you've seen, I mean, if someone knows a teenager, it would be y'all, would you say that the majority, and I ask this because I think I know what you're going to say, the majority of the issues in the teenage world come because they do not have that many adults. They don't have that many close relationships with adults in their life. Meaning that there's not a lot of adults speaking truth into their life. Okay,
yeah. I mean, I think, yes, I think that is definitely one of the things that we're lacking in. But I also think it's partly because, and I do have, I have one that's actually out of the house now, which is crazy. And so I had that perspective of looking back and being like, ooh, did I do this? Or I wish I would have done this. But then I still have 2 in the house. And I can even tell you from the perspective of being immersed in the youth culture and in ministry for, 22, 23 years, that even as a parent knowing these things, that I still catch myself getting so wrapped up in my stuff that I'm not always intentional of speaking that truth into my kids' lives. So I say that to say, yes, I think that if they had adults being intentional, parents being intentional, grandparents being intentional, I think that to some degree, depending on the coaches that they have, I know I'm kind of biased because I know some of the coaches that are intentional that go to our church, but if we would stop being so busy and be able to realize what a short amount of time we have with them in our homes, or within just our influence, even if they're not in our home, within our influence, then yes, I think that it would make a huge difference in their lives.
Yeah. Because one thing I see that y'all do with the youth, like on Wednesday nights, every group of students, like the small groups they break up, each one has 2 or 3 adults in it. And then that also happens on Sunday mornings. But then even after Sunday school on Sunday mornings, there's a time where there's new adults that come in and spend quality time with these small groups of kids, So there's a lot of different adults being put into these children's lives, which is good. And so we can say this, would a teenager benefit from having multiple adults in their life telling them the truth, speaking truth, all these different things, apart from their parents? I mean, obviously, parents, all things are good. So if that's the case for teenagers, then why is it that all of a sudden I become an adult man? Now I don't need men older than me doing the same thing for me. Like, why is it got to cut off? Oh, well, teenagers, if they just had more adults. Well, why are young dads failing? Well, how many young dads got 5, 6, 7 older men in their life telling them the truth? You know what I'm saying? So why does it got to stop with them,
I love how you connected that. I wasn't going there with you. I got it now. Let's see how you did that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's our pride. And we think we've been told that, we're supposed to have it all together, right?
Yeah.
I have to remind myself of that all the time. If I have the saying of, it's okay to not be okay. And I don't like that. I can say that all day long, but do I truly believe it most of the time? No, because I think I'm supposed to have it all together, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know where that disconnect is. I don't know exactly where those lies start sneaking in that as a young dad, why in the world would you not? We've got some amazing godly men around here. And I think Dusty and I probably had a little bit easier time with that when we were younger. Because we always had those parents in the youth group.
Yep, that's true.
And so, and I'll be honest with you, I was always looking for A + B = C with raising my kids. If I do this, this, and this, then I'm going to get this. And so over the years, I've watched and I've had to wrestle with and come to realize that there is no A + B = C. That I can do this, this, and this, but I cannot guarantee that my child is going to turn out anyway. That is between them and the Lord.
Yeah.
But I love that I don't know where we stop that and when we decide that we should be able to do this on our own. But that's a lie.
Yeah.
Satan loves that one. Let's do it on our own.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So kind of to land the plane, wrap up kind of what we're talking about here. One thing I would like you to highlight is, we've mentioned the living well, and you kind of explained there at the beginning kind of what it was. Now, once you finish your school, there'll be that will be available here in Russellville, and you'll be kind of working through all that.
Yes.
Can you explain kind of what's coming down the line with regards to that here in Russellville and the River Valley, things like that?
Well, so it's not all set in stone yet.
Sure.
So we're kind of still working through some of those things, but they have been really wanting a site in the River Valley for a while, and just another one of God's testimonies of His faithfulness that it's working out. That That is where I got to do my internship, was with Living Well. I would go down to the Geyer Springs location on Wednesdays for the last year. And so just with the connections made there, it was just like, okay, this is a good time to start this in the River Valley.
Yeah.
And so as of now, we'll know more details soon, but it's looking like they're going to be able to have a way, they're going to have a building to where we can have some of the foster care and adoption stuff in there and some counseling offices.
Okay.
So we'll get into, once we know, it's not a solid plan yet. So once we know that for sure, then we'll just have to make sure that everyone knows about that.
Yeah.
But I do know that I won't graduate until May.
Yeah.
And then I have to take some national test and get all the paperwork done.
Sure.
So after all of that, to actually be licensed. So then it's probably going to be August, September of 2025 before Living Well is up and running.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that.
What is your thing that you are looking forward to most with regards to, one, being done with school, but two, actually getting to use your counseling degree?
I think it's going to be, what am I looking forward to most? Honestly, it's just going to be able to see and being able to have more tools to help the local church body.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to counseling and getting to see those lights go off when we get to work through something hard.
Yeah.
Or that peace that fills them, as they get to look back and process through things that they may have carried, their whole life and didn't even realize what was going on. As we, get to work through that together. The people that put in that hard work, that have gone through things that you and I cannot even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
When I get to walk into that hard with them and see them fight so hard, it's pretty humbling, and it's pretty awesome to see the grace of our Lord and just how the freedom that He gives them. So I'm looking forward to just getting to see Him work and how He can use what I have been taught to help point these people to Him. So yeah, I think that's a good way to end.
Are you also looking forward to not having homework?
Oh my gosh, you know that answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
The papers and the reading and yeah.
Yes. I have read more in the last 3.5 years than I thought possible. But I will say, I just had to do a reflection paper on what I have learned in counseling. That was one of the last things I just turned in. And it reignited my love for learning. And I'm I am a reader, but I'm not an academic person.
No, I hear you.
I'm just not. I know how to study hard to make those tests, but I'm not naturally intelligent,
I hear you.
book smart. So getting to read all that stuff, it's going to be fun to get to read just for fun, if that makes sense at all.
I mean, I believe you.
Or to choose not to read.
There you go.
Maybe that's it, that there's not something I have to do.
Yeah.
That's going to be wonderful.
I hear you. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, you've been working very hard. It's exciting. And I appreciate this conversation. I would say, walking away from this, the conviction that I felt in this one has to do with, one, I guarantee there will come a time in my life where I have to admit, I can't figure this out. I need to ask someone. And I need to ask someone before it gets to a point where it's like, really need some, Mm-hmm. So there's that. But then two, just as a church member, the things that I have gone on in my life, the things the Lord has taught me, they are useful for the sake of someone else needs to learn from me, And I think if any of us can learn from that is that rather than church just being something I go to, it's something that I'm a part of, something that I give life to, So, but I appreciate the conversation, and school will be over before you know it.
We're going to start a countdown.
Start a countdown.
That's
hey,
right.
When I was about to finish seminary, my wife made one of them little, where you do paper and you roll them into a chain and you get to rip off.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I might have to start that in January.
Start that in January.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.